My name is Avery Clark, I'm 28 years old, and the night my parents decided my entire career was a joke started with the sound of forks tapping against porcelain. It was supposed to be one of those warm, easy family dinners. Sunday pot roast, soft lighting, the same kitchen I grew up in. But somewhere between the mashed potatoes and my dad's second glass of red wine, he looked at me and said, "Some people work real jobs, Avery. Not whatever you do in that little office." He chuckled, my mom forced a smile, and my brother smirked like the punchline had been delivered perfectly. I sat there, hands folded, pretending the comment didn't land, pretending I wasn't used to being the quiet disappointment. They had no idea what I actually did every day, no idea how many futures passed through my hands, no idea the power I held in signatures and approvals. And they definitely had no idea that soon, very soon, my desk would hold their fate too. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from. I was already seated at the table when the evening started slipping sideways. My mom had set out the special occasion plates, the ones with the thin gold rim she only brought out when someone in the family had achieved something worth celebrating. Spoiler, it was never for me. The pot roast sat steaming in the center like a centerpiece of nostalgia, filling the room with garlic, rosemary, and a kind of comfort I hadn't felt in years. My brother Chase breezed in 10 minutes late, wearing a blazer sharp enough to cut air and a grin that told me he'd already decided he was the hero of the night. Dad lit up instantly, his whole face changed the way it never did for me. "There he is, my guy," he said, clapping Chase on the back like a proud coach. "Closed another deal today?" Chase shrugged the way people do when they want praise and pretend they don't. "Something like that," Mom beamed. Dad poured him a generous glass of wine. No one looked at my empty glass. "And you, Avery?" Dad finally asked, almost as an afterthought. "Still doing that desk thing?" I swallowed my piece of pot roast, kept my face neutral. "You mean my job? Yeah, the computer stuff." He waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. "I don't know how you stare at screens all day. Must be nice leaving work at 4. I didn't bother correcting him that I didn't leave at 4, that I managed teams, that I handled decisions his construction company would collapse trying to understand. Instead, I said, "It's stable." Dad smirked. "Stable's another word for boring." Chase laughed under his breath, stirring his potatoes like they were applause he'd earned. "You know, Ave," he added, "you could probably get a real job if you applied yourself. Something with people, something that matters." I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "I like what I do," Dad sighed dramatically. "Honey, we just want you to want more for yourself. You're too smart to waste it pushing paper." They all went back to eating like they hadn't just carved me open with their words. None of them knew the truth, that I didn't push paper. That real decisions, the kind that could save someone's life or bury them, passed across my desk every single day. And none of them knew that before the week was over, I would be holding theirs. The next morning, I walked into my building the same way I always did, quietly, unnoticed, blending in with the stream of commuters who all looked like they were carrying invisible weights. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and copier toner, the kind of scent people associate with monotony. But to me, it smelled like responsibility, like truth. On the 14th floor, the doors opened to the soft hum of printers, muffled conversations, the steady rhythm of lives being changed in real time. My office wasn't glamorous. A glass wall, a sturdy desk, 2 chairs meant for conversations people rarely wanted to have, and a window overlooking the city that reminded me how small and big we all were at the same time. But the nameplate on my door, Avery Clark, Senior Compliance and Risk Officer, wasn't just a title. It was the quiet power my family pretended didn't exist. Every day, files landed on my desk thick with stories people never told out loud, late notices, crumbling credit scores, desperate requests, second chances, last chances. My job was simple on paper: evaluate risk, approve, or deny based on what the numbers said. But real life never fit neatly into spreadsheets. Every signature I made pressed deeper into someone's future. Every rejection protected the institution but fractured someone's plans. Numbers were clean, consequences weren't. By 10:30, I was knee-deep in 3 pending cases and a quarterly audit, my coffee already cold. My assistant, Brooke, poked her head in. "We've got a backlog from yesterday," she said softly. "I put the urgent ones on top." I nodded. "Thank you." She left. I opened the first file, then the second, moving through the familiar rhythm of analysis. The job wasn't flashy, wasn't loud, didn't come with applause or bragging rights at family dinners. But it mattered. Every decision mattered. And the irony, the bitter, quiet irony, was that the people who mocked my work the most had no idea how close they lived to consequences I could see coming long before they did. They had no idea that in less than 48 hours, a file with a name I knew by heart would land on my desk. And nothing would ever be the same after that. It was a little after noon when Brooke returned, a stack of folders in her arms and a hesitant look on her face. I was finishing notes on a small business refinancing case when she cleared her throat softly. "Avery, this one needs your review personally." Her tone made me look up immediately. She never said personally unless something was off. She set a single, thick manila folder on my desk, thicker than most personal cases should ever be. "It's high priority," she added quietly. "Came through this morning." I thanked her and waited until the door clicked shut before I reached for it. The moment my fingers brushed the tab, my stomach tightened, not sure why, just that strange instinct that whispers before your mind catches up. I flipped it open. A name stared back at me, Chase Clark, my brother. For a few seconds, I simply blinked as if I were misreading, as if there could somehow be another Chase Clark in the city with the same middle initial, same birth year, same address I'd seen on envelopes at home. But it was him. His condo unit was listed. His signature, his tax forms, his bank statements. My chest tightened as I scanned the summary. Requested loan amount, $180,000. Purpose, business expansion. Except the numbers didn't match that story. Within minutes, the truth began assembling itself on the pages. Missed payments, rising credit card balances, months of inconsistent income, late fees piling into something uncomfortably close to collapse. He had always bragged about stability, success, commissions rolling in, the kind of life you could photograph for Instagram. But this was unraveling, and he hadn't told anyone. Or worse, he had, but only the person he knew would never question him. I flipped to the final page, expecting a blank line where a cosigner should be. Instead, I froze. The name written in looping, unmistakable handwriting, Thomas Clark, my father, my throat tight. He had signed. He had signed something he clearly didn't understand. A cosigner agreement wasn't a reference, wasn't a character letter, wasn't harmless. If Chase defaulted, the bank wouldn't go after Chase first. They'd go after my father, his credit, his assets, his future. The room suddenly felt warm and airless. My family had no idea this file was in my hands, no idea I was the one responsible for deciding their fate, and no idea that there was no version of the math where this loan made sense. I closed the folder slowly, pulse echoing in my ears. Everything was about to change. I stared at the folder for a long time before I opened it again, long enough for the coffee on my desk to go cold and for the hum of the office to fade into a distant, muffled drone. When I finally forced myself to look at the numbers a second time, they didn't soften. They sharpened. Chase's credit score, once something he bragged about, had slid far lower than he would ever admit out loud. His spending habits were reckless. Thousands on restaurants, designer clothes, weekend trips that made for perfect photos but terrible financial stability. His condo mortgage was 2 payments behind. His last 3 commission checks were dramatically smaller than the ones he flaunted at family dinners. And then there was Dad's signature, sitting on the cosigner line like a loaded trigger. He had signed with trust, with pride, with the blind confidence he reserved only for Chase, but not for me. Never for me. I pressed my fingertips to my temples. If I approved this loan, I wouldn't just be risking the bank. I'd be risking my father's future, his retirement, everything he had worked his entire life to build. And Chase, he wasn't stable enough to manage this kind of debt. The numbers screamed it. The pattern proved it. Approving it would crush them both, but denying it. Denying it meant stepping into the role I knew they'd paint me as instantly. The jealous sister, the bitter one, the one who never supported Chase, the one with a cold little desk job who finally had a chance to get back at him. My family wouldn't see the math. They'd see betrayal. They'd see sabotage. They'd see me. I sighed, pulled my chair closer, and began writing my evaluation. Line by line, I documented everything: missed payments, unstable income, the dangerous debt-to-income ratio that alone was enough to shut the whole thing down. And then the final line, loan denied. My signature came last, neat, steady, deliberate. When I finished, I sat back and stared at it, the choice that would set everything in motion. Brooke came in a few minutes later. "Do you want me to process it?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, send the letters out today." She hesitated, maybe sensing the tension in my voice, maybe recognizing the last name, but she didn't ask. When she left, I exhaled shakily. My family had mocked my job for years. They believed I pushed paper, shuffled files, lived small. They had no idea that today my signature had just changed the entire trajectory of their lives. The denial letters went out on a Wednesday. By Thursday morning, my phone was already buzzing so violently on my desk it looked like it was trying to run away. I didn't have to check the caller ID. I knew. I let it ring until it stopped. Then it rang again and again. Then came the texts, short, sharp bursts of anger that lit up the screen like sparks from a fire I'd always known would burn me eventually. Avery, call me back. Why would you do this? Explain yourself. This is unbelievable. I didn't answer, not because I wanted to be dramatic, but because there was nothing I could say that numbers hadn't already said for me. By lunchtime, I made the mistake of glancing at the family group chat, a place usually reserved for birthday reminders and my mom's blurry casserole photos. Today, it was a battlefield. Dad, Chase just got a denial letter with MY name on it. Chase, Avery, what kind of sister sabotages her own family? Mom, honey, maybe there's been a misunderstanding. Please respond. Dad, unreal, your own brother. The word sabotage hit harder than I expected. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Sabotage, I had saved them, but truth doesn't matter when people want someone to blame. At 2:10 p.m., Brooke poked her head into my office again, eyes wide. Avery, your father is here. The bottom of my stomach dropped. He's in the lobby, she whispered. He asked for you by name. Of course he did. Avoiding him wasn't an option anymore. I smoothed my blazer, inhaled slowly, and walked down the hallway with a calmness that belonged to someone else. Dad was already in the conference room, arms crossed, jaw clenched, pacing like a storm trapped in a glass box. When he saw me, he didn't offer a greeting. Explain, he snapped. I closed the door quietly behind me. Dad, the application, how could you? He barked. Your own brother needed help and you shut him down without a second thought. I had every thought, I said softly. I reviewed everything carefully. His numbers, I don't care about numbers, he exploded. We're family, family helps family. The irony stung deep, because that rule had never applied to me, not once. Dad, I said carefully, approving it would have destroyed you both. He scoffed. Chase said you did it out of jealousy. My breath caught. Jealousy, there it was, the oldest, laziest narrative. I felt something inside me go still, not anger, not fear, just a quiet knowing. No matter how hard I worked, no matter what truth I carried, they only ever saw the version of me that fit their story. And their story was wrong, but the storm wasn't near over. It was only beginning. 6 months, that's how long it took for the noise to fall away, leaving only the kind of silence that settles into your bones. No calls, no texts, no accidental liked your photo on social media. My dad unfollowed me everywhere. Chase blocked me outright. Mom didn't, she just went quiet in that soft, guilty way she always did when she didn't know how to pick a side. The family group chat carried on without me. Holidays came and went. Birthdays, too. I didn't receive a single invitation. Not even one of Mom's passive-aggressive, hope you're doing okay messages. I'd been erased, and still life moved forward. At work, I got a promotion, a big one. The kind Dad always said only real professionals earned. My new office was 2 floors higher with a better view and a door heavier than my parents' approval had ever been. I didn't tell them, I didn't owe them that. Meanwhile, bits of Chase's life filtered through the grapevine. A cousin mentioned he'd sold his condo. A neighbor said they saw him driving an old sedan. Someone posted a picture from a family barbecue, everyone smiling except him, looking thin and tired in the background. The shine had finally worn off. Without the loan, without the image he'd worked so hard to maintain, he was unraveling. And for months, I sat with the uneasy truth. I hadn't ruined him. I just refused to save him from himself. But the part that surprised me most wasn't that my family hated me. It was how quickly I stopped needing them not to. Ethan helped with that. He never pressed, never demanded explanations. He was quiet where my family was loud, grounding where they were chaotic. You did the right thing, he told me once, over takeout in a movie he didn't even like. They'll figure it out eventually. I didn't believe him, not then, but I wanted to, and somewhere between. Silence, the promotions, and the long nights where I tried to convince myself I wasn't hurting, something shifted. I wasn't waiting for them anymore. I was healing without them, and that was when everything changed. It was an ordinary Thursday afternoon, rain streaking down my office window, the city moving in slow, gray waves when Brooke stepped into my doorway with a strange look on her face. Avery, there's a call for you on line 2. He said it's personal. My heart didn't speed up, it didn't freeze, it just paused. Who is it? Brooke hesitated. He said his name is Chase. The pen slipped from my hand. 6 months. 6 months of silence, blame, anger, exile, and now this. I inhaled once, slow and steady, then picked up the phone. This is Avery. Silence crackled for a moment, then Avery. His voice was thin, nothing like the confident, booming brother I grew up with. I leaned back in my chair. I'm here. A shaky breath came through the receiver. I'm sitting in my car outside Dad's office. My body tensed. Is he okay? He's fine, Chase said softly. This isn't about him. Another breath, a tired one, a human one. I need to tell you something. Rain pattered against my window. My heart thudded once. What happened? When Dad got the denial letter, he began, voice wavering. He didn't talk to me for 3 weeks. I stopped breathing. 3 weeks. Yeah, he let out a strained laugh. He's still mad, not at you, at me. That hit harder than any accusation ever could. He said he trusted me, said he felt stupid, said I put him in a position he never should have been in. I pressed a hand to my chest, steadying myself. Chase swallowed audibly, and he said something else, a long pause. He said he misjudged you, my breath caught. He said he spent years bragging about the wrong child. My eyes blurred instantly. Chase kept talking, voice cracking at the edges. And he's right, Avery. I should have stopped him that night at dinner. I should have defended you, but it felt good, you know, being the golden one. I didn't care how it made you feel. He exhaled roughly. When the loan got denied, I told myself you were jealous. You wanted to teach me a lesson. The shame in his voice was unmistakable, but you saved me. A tear slipped down my cheek before I felt it fall. I'm rebuilding now, he continued. No condo, no BMW, no image to keep up, just me, he hesitated, and someone I want you to meet. Someone, her name's Emily, he said, voice warming slightly. She's the one who told me to call. She asked, what's your sister really like? And I realized I didn't know. My throat tightened. Chase, I want to fix things, he whispered. If you'll let me, but I understand if you won't. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of 6 months lift just a little. It's not too late, I said softly, but it can't go back to what it was. I know, his voice broke. I want to know you, really know you. And for the first time in years, I believed him. I thought Chase's call would be the emotional peak of my week, but life has a way of stacking revelations on top of each other before you're ready to carry them. 2 days after that conversation, just as I was packing up my bag to leave the office, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen on my screen in half a year. Dad. For a moment, I just stared at it, frozen. He didn't call me, ever, not even before all this. Not unless Mom handed him the phone and told him to. But the call kept ringing, vibrating against my desk like it was insisting on being answered. My hands were slightly unsteady when I pressed accept. Dad. There was a breath on the other end, rough, uneven, almost unfamiliar. Avery, he said, voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. We need to talk. Not angry, not accusatory, just tired. Okay, I said softly. He cleared his throat, the sound scraping with something like discomfort. I talked to your brother. My heart thudded once hard, and he told me everything. Silence swelled between us. About the loan, about what he signed without understanding, about how you tried to protect me. A pressure built behind my eyes. Dad, I was wrong. The words came out thin but sharp enough to cut. Dad, you don't. Let me finish, he said, voice cracking. I've been wrong for a long time. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of that land. I judged you, he continued quietly, not on who you are, but on what I understood or what I thought I understood. He sighed shakily. You work in an office, so I assumed it was simple, safe, small, and I bragged about your brother because I recognized his world, not because he deserved it more. A tear slipped down my cheek. I didn't see your work, he murmured. Didn't see the responsibility you carry, didn't see how much weight you hold. I just didn't want to feel old or left behind. My voice wavered. Dad. I'd like a chance to fix things, he whispered, if you'll let me. I let Th. Silent stretch, not out of punishment, but out of understanding. Things have to change, I said gently. I know, he replied, and they will. I won't compare you anymore. I won't dismiss you. I won't dismiss what you've built. My chest loosened. Thank you, I whispered. It wasn't a full healing, but it was a beginning, a real one. The following Sunday, I found myself standing outside a little cafe by the river, the kind with warm lights glowing behind fogged windows and potted plants drooping just slightly from winter air. Chase had picked the place, or rather Emily had. He texted me nervously 3 times that morning to make sure I really was coming. I was. For the first time in months, I wanted to. When I stepped inside, Chase stood up so fast he nearly knocked over his water glass. He looked different, not in the dramatic movie way, no drastic haircut, no sudden glow-up, but in a quieter, deeper way. Softer around the edges, less performative, more real. Avery. He said my name like it meant something. Then Emily turned and smiled at me, a warm, easy smile that felt like a welcome instead of a judgment. "You must be Avery," she said, stepping forward to hug me without hesitation. She smelled like vanilla lotion and something floral, gentle, comforting. "I've heard so much about you." I couldn't help a soft laugh. "Hopefully the good things." "Mostly the good things," she teased, nudging Chase as we all sat down. For the first few minutes, conversation felt awkward in the way healing always does, careful, slow, like testing the strength of a bridge after it's been rebuilt. But then something shifted. Chase asked questions, real questions. "What do you actually like doing when you're not working? What's your dream job? Are you still seeing that guy, Ethan?" He listened to me, really listened. No smirks, no comparisons, no dismissive glances at his watch, and when he spoke about his own life, he didn't brag or perform. He talked about rebuilding, about working with a financial counselor, about selling the things he once used to hide behind. Then Emily nudged him, grinning. "Ask her," Chase groaned. "Emily," I raised an eyebrow. "Ask me what?" He took a breath. "Avery, will you be my best woman at the wedding?" My throat tightened instantly. He held up his hands. "You don't have to say yes, we want you there because you matter." I swallowed hard. "Yes," I whispered. "I'd love to." Chase exhaled like he'd been holding that breath since we were kids. For the first time in our lives, we weren't competing, we were connecting, and it felt like something worth protecting. When I got home that evening, the apartment was dim except for the soft glow of the floor lamp near the couch. Ethan was curled up beneath a blanket, a half-finished takeout container on the coffee table, and a movie paused on the screen. He looked up the moment I walked in, concern melting into relief. "Hey," he said gently. "How'd it go?" I hung my coat, kicked off my shoes, and sat beside him, letting my shoulder rest against his. "Good," I murmured. "Really good." He wrapped an arm around me. "You deserve that." I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of his presence settle the last remaining pieces of the day. For months, I'd felt like I was walking through my life holding my breath, waiting for the next accusation, the next cold silence, the next reason to question myself. But tonight, something was different. Steady, whole, my phone buzzed on the cushion beside me. I reached for it lazily until I saw the name, Dad, for the second time in a week. My pulse fluttered, not from fear this time, but something softer. Hope maybe. I opened the message, "Proud of you." A second one followed a few seconds later. "Dinner this weekend, just us, I want to start over." My breath trembled, not with the ache I'd carried for years, but with something gentler, quieter. A beginning instead of an ending. Ethan kissed the top of my head. "Good news," I nodded, blinking away the sting in my eyes. "Yeah," I whispered, "good news." We leaned back into the couch. The movie still paused on some forgotten scene, the world outside moving on without me. And for the first time in a long time, my success didn't feel like armor. It didn't feel like something I had to defend or justify or shrink. It felt like something I could share with people who finally saw me and with people who had never stopped. I thought about Chase's tired smile at the cafe, Emily's warm hug, Dad's trembling voice on the phone. About the quiet woman I'd become, the one who didn't need applause but accepted it when it came honestly. Success without recognition had shaped me, but success with understanding, with love, with healing, that was something else entirely. Something I was finally ready to let myself have. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't climbing alone anymore. I was finally being seen. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more just like make sure you're subscribed and tell us where you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow, and I'd love to have you here for the next one.